What if Tanjiro and Nezuko were both demons? Reimagining the story of Demon Slayer without Tanjiro and Nezuko is difficult. After all, the story begins with a vision of hatred for Muzan and the demons he created. The narrative will be more about the Hashira's process of defeating the Upper Moon demons and how to end Muzan. But there is also a reverse canon narrative that may appear. The Demon Slayer story would center on Muzan as the antithesis of corrupt life. Muzan could actually be the protagonist who fights against the Japanese government at the time, only in a very cruel and deadly way. Apart from this possible introductions, I have 3 theories that I think are common. In the 3 theories, Tanjiro and Nezuko remain at the center of the Demon Slayer story. In the first theory, Demon Tanjiro and Demon Nezuko maintain their humanity when meeting Giyu. In the first moment of their meeting with Giyu, both of them realize that Giyu has a deadly killing spirit. However, following the story written in the manga, Giyu actually has insecurities about himself that he's not worthy of being Hashira. Moreover, in the canon story, Tanjiro is able to show his determination to Giyu, that he is able to withstand Nezuko's bloodlust. If in this opening scene, Tanjiro and Nezuko have both become demons, there will be a great battle involving Giyu's various water-breathing movements. However, in the process, Tanjiro still continues to search for his human consciousness. After all, Tanjiro and Nezuko were one gene. In this opening battle, both Tanjiro and Nezuko will experience a moment of identity struggle. If you also saw the stretching of Sukuna and Itadori in Jujutsu Kaisen, of course you know about Itadori's efforts to maintain his consciousness. When this moment happened, Giyu noticed something strange about Tanjiro and Nezuko. In this split second, Tanjiro and Nezuko, who knew they could not defeat Giyu, would run away. Seeing what Nezuko's freedom from demon shackles in Swordsmith Village and making her return to being human shows that this is also very likely to happen to Tanjiro. The story of Demon Slayer is then built by making Tanjiro and Nezuko as 2 demons who always restrain their lust for killing and continue to help humans. That's when Hashira Kagaya Ubuyashiki will realize this unconventionally and instead make them 2 weapons to defeat Muzan by providing sword training. The sword training they receive will be supervised by Hashira, who are ready to kill if the ferocity of the demon soul evaporates from Tanjiro and Nezuko. That first theory was just a spark. My second theory is that Tanjiro and Nezuko received medical training from Tamayo, with the same opening as the first theory, which was Tanjiro and Nezuko's escape from the fight against Giyu after they clashed over the identity of humanity. Both of them will keep running. During the day, they will hide, and at night, they would keep running for safety. All they had in mind at the time was that the horror of Giyu's power that could kill them in an instant. In some moments, they would raise their guard. This was mainly due to Tanjiro's keen sense of smell. As his sense of smell opened to its fullest, he suddenly smelled a very warm aura. The warm aura had the same basic scent as their body and soul, that of a demon, and that demon was named Tamayo. Without realizing it, Tanjiro and Nezuko's bodies immediately approached Tamayo's existence as one of the top-level demons. Of course, Tamayo realized that she was being followed. It was then, on a dark night in an alley in Tokyo, that Tamayo would stop her steps. A fateful encounter ensued. Tamayo realized that Tanjiro and the shabbily dressed Nezuko were actually starving. Both looked like they hadn't eaten in days. At that time, Tamayo would probably test them as most doctors do. She would break a glass vial of blood that she kept under her shirt. When that happened, Tanjiro and Nezuko looked like 2 starving demons. However, they also seemed to be very restrained in their bloodlust. Tamayo realized that they were 2 anomaly demons. From that day on, Tamayo took care of Nezuko and Tanjiro, not only caring, but Tamayo also provided training in medicine, until one day Tanjiro found a book that made his grudge burn. Tamayo designed a medicine that could kill Muzan. When he saw Muzan's name written in the book, Tanjiro asked what it was about. At that moment, Tamayo would tell him that she also had a grudge against Muzan. Knowing there was a common feeling of grudge, Tanjiro and Nezuko also wanted to be trained to become demons with deadly powers. At that time, both of them would practice manipulating the demon blood in their bodies. The power of fire was the basis, as both were very close to the history of the sun god dance. That blood ability would be even more deadly with the skill of utilizing medicine. Just imagine, with the chaos they created with the flames, they could throw medicines in all directions and send the demons of the upper moon into a frenzy. More so, if they could hone the skills of Shinobu Kocho, the fire they emit from blood sparks could be a method of creating deadly poisons. Furthermore, the battle with Muzan would utilize more medicine and combat tricks, rather than focusing on breathing power. The third theory focuses on the concept that Tanjiro and Nezuko became Muzan's main demons and committed treason. In this theory, Tanjiro and Nezuko actually received a lot of combat training from Muzan. However, in the end, it was the cause of their defeat. This story will start with a slightly different narrative from the first theory. When the 2 of them were fighting with Giyu and almost lost, there would be one tense moment. That moment is the arrival of Muzan. Apparently, Muzan still hadn't left the snowy forest where Tanjiro and Nezuko lived. At that moment, Muzan immediately stopped Giyu's various attacks, and Giyu realized that at that moment, he still couldn't do much to stop Muzan. The first thing he did was devise a strategy to survive until sunrise. Indeed, by the time the opening scene ended, the sun was about to rise. Gyu would run while continuing to launch attacks to get closer to the sun. Muzan knew that Gyu was thinking, so he continued to launch long-range attacks. However, Tanjiro and Nezuko were still fresh demons. They didn't know that the sun could harm demons. It was then that Muzan realized there was something strange about these two. When the rays of sun filtering through the leaves hit their body, no smoke rose. The skin on their feet or hands exposed to the sun did not peel. Muzan was even more excited. He knew that the peak of his awakening was determined by the existence of Tanjiro and Nezuko. Instead of continuing to fight Gyu, Muzan pulled Tanjiro and Nezuko with shadow tendrils. The three of them stayed away from the fight and immediately returned to the demon palace built by Muzan. A very unexpected narrative ensued. Muzan actually provides combat training for Tanjiro and Nezuko. He did that because he realized that he could not always save Tanjiro or Nezuko. It would be very dangerous if either of them met Hashira while both of them had absolutely no fighting skills. Muzan also did this so that someday he might take over the bodies of the two of them for the sake of an eternal life. For him, the day when he no longer fears the sun will come soon. However, there was one thing that Muzan didn't realize. During the training, Tanjiro and Nezuko were invited to see sunlight several times. When both of them were exposed to sunlight, their awareness as humans occasionally arose, and when that realization came, both of them remembered a sad moment. Nezuko knew very well that it was Muzan who killed her family. Meanwhile, a different narrative happened to Tanjiro. His moment of memory is that his family had been killed and covered in blood. When he looked at his dead family, he didn't realize Muzan was there, and in an instant, Tanjiro was turned by Muzan into a demon. At first, he was incapacitated with a single attack. Then Muzan forced Tanjiro to drink drops of blood from his hand. When the memories became more complete, the two devised a revenge. Tamayo's name will remain here. During the process of plotting their revenge, the two took a stroll through Tokyo. At an eating place hidden in a dark alley, Tanjiro and Nezuko were discussing the plan. Little did they know that Tamayo was there, coming out of one of the human houses. She'd finished treating a sick child. Tamayo overheard their conversation. However, the first thing Tanjiro did was launch an attack that almost killed Tamayo. At this moment, Tanjiro, who's better suited with a sword, brandished a katana at Tamayo's neck. Unlike Tanjiro, Nezuko realized that Tamayo was no threat. Nezuko would say, "Aniki, the look in her eyes is the same one we have, a hatred for Muzan." That day then became a coalition meeting between Tamayo, Tanjiro, and Nezuko. Eventually, they would also team up with the Hashiras. In the final battle, Muzan was unaware that Tanjiro and Nezuko had become Trojan viruses within his demonic organization. The fiercest battle would take place in the final moments. When the sun was about to rise at that moment, Muzan was again able to possess Tanjiro and try to seize his consciousness. However, the demon power control training he received from Muzan would become a deadly weapon. If usually the virus in the body is fought by white blood cells, instead, Tanjiro's red blood cells would become a terrifying monster. His great grudge against Muzan made his demon blood cells mutate as monsters, swallowing other blood powers. Muzan tried to swallow Tanjiro and was instead swallowed by Tanjiro. This narrative would be very cruel to Muzan, but still on an inline that does not violate the concept of the original Demon Slayer manga. This third theory also makes fans listen to Nezuko's melodious voice faster. You can imagine if at the beginning of the scene, Nezuko would have spoken without being gagged by the bamboo tree. This can happen because Nezuko, since the beginning, has a demon consciousness and is active in a demon organization with Tanjiro. Those are the three theories that I can convey at this time. There are still many other possibilities for Tanjiro and Nezuko's transformation into demons. Do you want to propose another theory? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, you can check out this other cool video. Click on it to see. Go on, click it.